beautiful day. Today is a Tuesday, the last Tuesday the before the festival, that is before the Christmas, and we are still going to have another one before we go into New Year. We welcome you back onto newspaper review. Today is not going to be different, but the only thing that we are happy that majority of the paper we have today is on economy and progress of the country, whereby the president insisting on the track that Nigeria is that towards the good. Actually, he knows that things are not easy, but he has some plans. May God let it come into action, into fruition, so that the whole country can enjoy. Yes, let's take it from this angle. The compilation of the newspaper have been done by the director of this encouragement, Motorayo Ayegbayo. Let's look at the headline containing the papers that we have for you today. Before we move into one after the other, that is the paper, we look at the headline. Let me tell you a few of the paper we have today. We have Leadership newspaper, we have Nigerian Tribune, The Guardian is also here, Business Day is here. These days, Daily Asset is also in the studio with us. New Telegraph is here, Blueprint is here, among others. We want to appreciate my VTR for following us. Let us now go back to Leadership and review the headline one after the other. Yes, from Leadership newspaper, we have the biggest story saying no regret for instant removal of petrol subsidy. That is accredited to President Tinubu. Let's move on to Tribune. I told you that the stories on majority of the paper from my business angle, tax reforms have come to stay. Tinubu also said that. Another one from the same person, from the same source, presidency, Tinubu insists on reforms, says market forces will tame inflation. And from Business Day, we have the biggest story from the presidency again. Tinubu eyes reforms consolidation to drive growth. Then we are moving on to this day. From this morning, we have the biggest story on Tinubu again. 8 key takeaways from Tinubu's first presidential media charge. Then we move on to Daily Asset. From Daily Asset, we have no regrets, removing petrol subsidy. Tinubu insists on that. And from New Telegraph, oh God, the same thing from the presidency. Why I won't reduce size of my cabinet by Tinubu. That one is on politics, not real business. Let us take it one by one. Particularly, let us look at the rider to the biggest story before we look at the story behind the story that is beside it. I said that the biggest story in Leadership is no regret for instant removal of subsidy or petrol subsidy that is accredited to Tinubu. And he also emphasized by says Nigeria was eating its children's future. He says economy on course to recovery. Declares no going back on tax reform. I won't sack any of my ministers. That is from the Leadership newspaper. We move on to Nigerian Tribune. I hope Adeleke is following. Yes, from Nigerian Tribune on economy again. Tax reforms have come to stay. That is also credited to President Tinubu. Let's look at the rider. Possibly it can be a little bit different from what we had in Leadership. Says government open to consultations. I have no regret removing subsidy in sin. That is the president. Rules out plan to reduce size of cabinet. Food crisis. We have no other choice but to improve production. That's okay. Then 2,000 tractors coming to boost mechanized farming. That is a brilliant promise. Let's move on to another. We are still coming back to that paper. The Guardian is the next. We are reviewing the major headlines containing the paper. We are coming back to other important stories from each. From the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian says Tinubu insists on reform, says market forces will tame inflation. That is from Guardian newspaper. Thank you, Lekan. Then we are still coming back to that paper. We are what? We are reviewing only the headline first. Then from Business Day. Business Day says Tinubu eyes reforms consolidation to drive growth. That is from Business Day. We move on to this day. The biggest story contained that story in the paper is eight key takeaways from Tinubu's first presidential media. Let us look at the rider to that story. Does not believe in price controls. Then has no regret removing subsidy. Likewise says borrowing not a crime. And tax reform have come to stay but open to negotiation on VAT. They express his confidence in his security architecture. Then from the same paper, insists reforms not designed to inflict pains on Nigerians necessary for growth. Says he has met obligations without recourse or to NNPCL funds. Then blames stampedes on very grave error on part of organizers. Okay, let's move on to another paper where we have daily asset. Let's go to daily asset. From daily asset, we have the biggest story saying no regrets removing petrol subsidy. Tinubu insists. Let's look at the rider. Possibly it can be a little bit different from the other one. Nigeria, no further Christmas to neighboring countries. Unprepared to reduce 48-man bloated cabinet. Then move on to another paper. New Telegraph is the next. From News Telegraph, we have the biggest story on Tinubu. Also, why I want to reduce size of my cabinet by Tinubu. Let's look at the story. Says no regret removing fuel subsidy, meeting nation's financial obligation without an NPCL limited ways and means. Then minimum wage increase, fight against corruption, insist tax reforms here to stay. Forecast economic prosperity in 2025. Advises Nigerians to switch off lights to manage electricity bill. Let's move on to another paper. Blueprint is the next. Okay, let's move on to Blueprint. From Blueprint, we have this one. I'm ready to make concession on tax reform bills. Tinubu made that statement on the bill that is in the National Assembly. Says no regret over full subsidy removal. Expresses satisfaction with the military rule-out probe. Insists cabinet size remains. Let's move on to, let us look at the other stories contained in leadership. We move back to leadership. Let us move on to leadership. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Okay, Northern students reject tax reform bills. Another one, Fintiri creates 7 Emirates chiefdoms in Adamawa. Then troops killed 13 IPOB members. Governor Sani preaches peace at Christmas Carol. Okay, we move on to another paper where we have Nigerian Tribune. From Nigerian Tribune, we have reviewed the biggest story. Let us look at other stories contained in the paper. On the paper, federal government commences 50% discount transportation palliative for 144 what? For 144 rules across Nigeria today. That is, it starts today. Then likewise from the same paper, we have this one saying Nigeria nominates Olufemi Elias as candidate for World Court Judge. That is brilliant for Nigeria. Okay, we move on to The Guardian. From The Guardian this morning, I think Adeleke is much around. The Guardian, thank you very much for being swift at picking the pictures. Tinubu insists on reform, says market forces will tame inflation. The high points of presidential media charge. Then let's look at this one also. Then fuel subsidy removal. Let's also hear what he said. That is in the quotation. I don't have any regrets whatsoever in removing the subsidy. It's necessary. We cannot spend our future generations' investment. We were not investing. We were just deceiving ourselves. The reforms are necessary. That is from Tinubu. Then bloated cabinet. Tinubu also said, I'm not prepared to bring down the size of my cabinet. I saw the need when I put them together. Therefore, justifying it. Then from the budget and borrowing, Tinubu also says that borrowing is not a criminal. It's not criminal. There is a mismatch in expenditure and revenue. There is need to address infrastructural deficit. In the last 3 months, I have not taken a penny from NNPCL to meet the country's obligations without ways and means. We have done well. Okay, credit himself. Then from tax, he also said, that is because Tinubu dominates the scene today. Tax reform is here to stay. We cannot continue to do what we did in the yesteryears in today's economy. Then we have this one also saying Nigeria secures 742 terrorism convictions, acquit 888, says OSBC, that is our special assistant, that is new rebel, making that one. Then from religious angle, Anglican primate Bishop blame stampede deaths on hunger, seek action. Okay, commuters pay over 30% more in fares as Yuletide activities peak. Then from this angle, consumers enjoy cheaper fuel from Dangote, NNPC's price war. Okay, we move on to another one. Okay, let us look at it from this angle. New twist from the same paper. New twist over Shell's divestment as stakeholders for NUPRC Tinubu. Okay, we move on to another interesting story from Business Day. From Business Day, we have this one. The biggest says that Tinubu eyes reforms consolidation to drive growth. Then beside it, that by the side of the paper, we have Christmas shoppers, some pricey gifts on inflation. The aircraft shortages leave holiday travelers stranded. Then federal government to tap World Bank AFDB hybrid initiative to fix energy access. Yes, if the transportation increases, then you come and join Osun trip, Osun train. Then from this day is the next. Okay, let's go to this day. We are doing it together. From this day, we have 8 key takeaways from Tinubu's first presidential media chat. Okay, let's look at the rider underneath. Does not believe in price controls. Also says, has no regret removing subsidy. And another one says, borrowing not a crime. Okay, let's move on to another interesting story on the same place. Okay, we move on to daily asset. From daily asset, we have no regret removing petrol subsidy. Tinubu insists. And saying, he also said another thing, is saying Nigeria, no Father Christmas to neighboring countries. Look at that. Nigeria, no Father Christmas to neighboring countries. Then unprepared to reduce 48-man bloated cabinet. Okay, now from the same paper, we have this one, Mina Abuja gridlock puts motorists, passengers there straight for 4 days. Oh, very funny. Then from the same paper, thank you, Lekan, Yuletide, Kogi, CP orders watertight security. Then SOM partners manufacturers to boost leather, textile production. Then new Ribadu from the same paper saying Ribadu assumes office, vows to reform NUC laws. And from this one, a private plane crash in Brazil kills pilot, his family. Then from sporting angle from the paper, AFCON 2000, 2025, Nigeria, Morocco, Ivory Coast to top seed for draw. Okay, we move on to, we are still operating within the paper. Let's look at the base of the paper to see what happens here. Okay, Nzodima presents 756 billion naira for 2025 budget to Imo Assembly. Okay, we move on to another paper, which is New Telegraph. New Telegraph has this, the biggest is, why I want to reduce size of my cabinet by Tinubu. Then saying that corroborating the point, says no regret removing fuel subsidy, meeting nations financial obligation without NNPC. Okay, we look at this one also from repair collapse allow dam on Maiduguri will flood again. Zulum begs federal government. Then from this angle having to do with security, from the same paper, troops neutralize 13 IPOB members, arrest kidnappers in. That's a brilliant story from security at this very particular point in time. Let's look at this foreign. Biden saves 37 of 40 federal death row in email from likely Trump execution. Okay, that is from foreign. Then tax reform bills, collection, distribution of VAT, major concern. That is credited to Sunny, and you can see the picture there too. Then from the security also angle, the same paper, government kill pregnant women, baby, 13 others in fresh Plateau attack. Then federal government declares public holidays for Christmas, New Year. Then palliative restriction exercise bureaucracy shouldn't hinder act of charity. Obi says that. Then from this one, NCDC raises concern over Lassa Viva spike. Okay, let's move on to blueprints is the next. Possibly from blueprints, we are going to what? Call it a day. Let us review blueprint where we have the biggest story saying, made in presidential media charts. Then I'm ready to make concession on tax reforms. That is credited to Tinubu or presidency. Says no regret over first subsidy removal. Then expresses satisfaction with the military. Rules out pro. Insists cabinet size remains. Okay, now terrorism. Federal government disposes 1,743 cases, secures 742 convictions in 4 years. Let's move on to from the same paper. Let's look at another story. Why majors stick to old prices as Nigerians loud NNPCL for reduction, and competition, demand and supply at work. Analysis says that then why transport freight can't come down now. Transporter says that. Then suspect linked to Bello Tunji remanded in Kuje prison. Let's look at another one. Tinubu flags up 2024 pilgrimage to Israel, Jordan. Then CNG initiative excite tanker drivers. Okay, before we go, let's look at it from Cross River. Cross River, police arrest suspect over alleged trafficking of girls to Libya. I hope this is with the convenient point. We are going to draw the continuation of the program, but because of God, you are going to meet our colleagues tomorrow. That is the Christmas day tomorrow. No holiday for us. We continue satisfying you. We want to appreciate all those who made today's edition a fulfilling one, starting from the director of news and current affairs, who happen to be the editorial advisor to this program, Moturayo Aigbayo, and the producer Oluwatoyin Yusuf. I'm yours sincerely, Adeleke Adeleke. Thank you very much. Also state will be better or shorter. Bye for now.